everybody just going on real fast. Oh, and that's not anything right now. So this is what I'm going to do. Let's see here. Let's see if I got. Alright. We got one person on. Let me try to get a few more people on that was actually saying something real fast, so I can go through this. Y'all know I hit this subject so many times, so let me just go ahead and get everybody on that had something to say. Okay, hopefully that works. Alright, we got that person. Hold on, y'all. Let me tag just a few more people. Sorry, y'all. My phone ain't let me tag y'all names, so I'm just going to respond with the login. Alright. And this queen lady. We're finna go over the biblical last days because people feel that we are living in the last days and we still got to do the law of Moses and all that stuff. So we just finna go through this information and just see what the Bible says. None of my personal opinion is going to be in it. It's going to be directly what the Bible say. All right. First thing first. So many issues to address. My status was, we are not living in the last days, and the Father doesn't care about the day you worship Him or what you are eating. Let's read the Bible one chapter at a time, and I got a lot of backlash from it. So, first of all, how do we know we're not living in the last days? First thing first. Let's go through and let's read what the Bible says. Okay. I'm going to turn my screen around and we're going to read it together. Okay? Hebrews chapter 1. And we're going to read exactly what Hebrews 1 and 2 says. God, who at sundry times and in diverse manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets, hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he hath appointed heir of all things, by whom he also made the worlds. So, when was Hebrews created? Hebrews, the author of Hebrews is created in 1st century. I think it was around time 63 AD. I don't see if it have it up here, but just do your research. Hebrews was created in the 1st century, and the author of Hebrews, some say Paul, some says other whoever, one of Paul's students, was saying that they were living in the last days, 2,000 years ago. So now, if that's not enough, let's go to the book of Acts. Acts 2, and we're going to start at verse 14. Talking about what happened at Pentecost. But Peter, standing up with the 11, lifted up his voice and said unto them, Ye men of Judea, and all that dwell at Jerusalem, be this known unto you, and hearken to my words. For these are not drunk as ye suppose, seeing it is the 3rd hour of the day. But this is that which was spoken by the prophet Joel. And it shall come to pass in the last days, said God, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. When was the spirit poured upon all flesh? In Pentecost. So now, shalom, Mr. Will, shalom. So, we have two different instances. See, the book of Acts and the book of Hebrews was written in the same generation. they both were saying in the Bible that they were presently living in the last days. So, what people do 2,000 years later, they'll go pull Peter, who pulled from Psalms, and they will say, hey, one day to the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. So then my response will be, can you show me where anybody throughout that whole Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, ever used that in a prophecy? Anybody ever used that time period, just like you're doing in the Bible? When did anybody, in fact, Peter was going against them because they were saying that the Most High was, or they were saying that Christ, he was tarrying, he was being too long. Peter wasn't giving them the same argument that they was giving, that 1,000 years is just like nothing to the Most High. That's not what Peter was saying. Peter was saying that, the Most High works on his time. But people would take it all out of context and try to make it fit their doctrine, their eschatology. So to them, because they can't fathom that we're not living in the last days, they're going to pull all the Bible out of context, forget what the Bible says. Yeah, it says they was living in the last days, but we're living in the last days too. What? What? Now, they will also go to the Book of Revelation, who was written in that same time period. All these books was written in that same generation. So they will go to the Book of Revelation and they say that we are living the book of we are presently living out the Book of Revelation. But what they do is they skip the first 3 verses in the Book of Revelation. I'm not going to skip it for you folks. Let's see what the Book of Revelation actually says. I'm going to show you. Let's turn around and let's read the Bible together. Revelation 1 and 1. The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent, let me get some more focus in, sorry. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. So what's the first thing he said? They would shortly come to pass. But let's keep reading. Verse 2. Who bear record of the word of God and of the testimony of Jesus Christ and of all things that he saw. Verse, he that readeth and they that heareth the words of this prophecy and keep those things which are written, for the time is at hand. Verse 4 tells you who he's writing. John to the 7 churches which are in Asia. So, the book of Revelation was written to 7 churches in Asia Minor about things that was. So, how could Revelation be planned out 2,000 years later, dealing with America or China or Russia or whatever you try to do with it, when it was written to 7 churches about things that they were going to see, because the time was at hand for them 2,000 years ago? See, the problem is people don't really understand what the Bible is teaching. The Bible was dealing with covenants, okay? The new covenant had no ending date, everlasting. The only thing that could end was the old covenant. The covenant dealing with the law of Moses and etc. That old covenant was the only thing that could ever end. The new covenant could not end. So, when you read in the Bible about last days, it's talking about the last days of that covenant. Once again, it was talking about the last days of that old covenant. And if you go to Deuteronomy 32, let's just go there and let's just see what was said. Hold on, is it Deuteronomy 32 or 31? Yeah, 31 and 32. So let's just read together Deuteronomy 31. Deuteronomy 31, Oh, look, everybody jumped off now because I done read the Bible. Nobody wants to read the Bible. Everybody want to be in fantasy world. Deuteronomy 32, let's start at 29. For I know that after my death, you will utterly corrupt yourselves and turn aside from the way which I have commanded you, and evil will befall you in the latter days, because ye will do evil. And guess what? Then they learned the song of Moses. See, they just received that old covenant, that covenant of Moses. They just received it right there. So now Moses is telling them what's going to befall them at the end of that covenant, the latter days of that covenant. And then they go through the song of Moses. And guess what? In the book of Revelation, what do you have going on? First, they're going through the song of Moses, and then they're singing a new song, which was the song dealing with the new covenant. So, the last days, latter days, end days, time of the end times, anything dealing with ending of days was dealing with the Mosaic covenant. So, what more can I say? So then the world is over then. What world? The Bible never said the world was going to end. In fact, in Ecclesiastes, it said the world would continue on, the earth would continue on forever. So, I mean, is it contradicting itself? Is it going to end or isn't it going to end? I mean, what's going on here? We got to understand that you're reading literature. These people that was writing this Bible, they already understood this. You are in America. You are in the 21st century. The way that you was brought up and the way that you learn to read words and literature with meanings is totally different. In fact, the old English have different definitions than our modern English anyway. If you want to know what they're talking about, you need to go pick up you an older English dictionary and see what those words like world and all of that stuff meant to them when they was translating the Bible in the 1600s. Even they knew that it wasn't talking about the literal world ending. Everybody knew that. This is just something that people push in the 21st century. So no, it's not the end of the world. The last day was the end of the Mosaic covenant. So now let's talk about where the brother go, because he wanted to bring up and said that I was off talking about we're not supposed to be doing like that. The Father don't worry about us eat what we're eating in the day of worship, and Christ came not to do away with the law. Let's read exactly what Christ said. Right here, Matthew 5, right? We're going to read it. We're going to read it right here. Matthew 5, I'm going to read 17 and 18 like everybody wants to do, because they teach that this means the law was going to last forever. Verse 17, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. So then they stop, hey, look, see, he didn't come to do away with the law or the prophets. Let's keep reading. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. So Christ just literally said, until heaven and earth pass, the law wasn't going to pass until all was fulfilled. So if you start reading the Bible right there, that means that the law is still intact today, because heaven and earth hasn't passed, right? Well, first of all, we're going to tackle what heaven and earth is. Because when people read the Bible, they don't understand that these are idioms. These are metaphors. This is metaphoric language. It's not talking about literal heaven and earth passing away. So now, you just go to the Bible and you let the Bible explain the Bible. So now, I want to go to Isaiah 13. Okay, let's go to Isaiah 13, dealing with the destruction of Babylon. And we're going to read what Isaiah 13 says. And just for my people who don't see, notice Isaiah 13 right there. This is all the burden of Babylon. In fact, verse 1 says, peace and blessings, my brother. Verse 1 literally says the burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. So let's find out what this heaven and earth is. We're going to go all the way down because all of this was talking about Babylon being destroyed. So let's look at some of the language used about the kingdom of Babylon being destroyed. Verse 9, behold, the day of the Lord cometh, cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger. What is this? The day of the Lord. That means the day of the Lord. Babylon was being destroyed in the day of the Lord. To lay the land desolate, he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. Now, I thought only Israel could sin because only Israel had the law and sin was transgressing on the law. No. You're messing up what the Bible is talking about. So now, we're not going to go there right now. Let's go to verse 10. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give off their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. Wow, so you mean to tell me when Babylon was destroyed, he literally cut out the sun and the moons and the stars, and they saw all this in heaven, and nobody recorded it in history? This is metaphoric language. But let's keep reading. Verse 11. And I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity. Who is this going against? The burden of Babylon. What is he saying? He's punishing the world. What world is he talking about? The world of Babylon, not the entire globe. For their evil and wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. Let's keep reading. And I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. What is he talking about? Babylon being destroyed. Now, let's go to verse 13. Therefore, I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place. Once again, I will shake the head. Now, how many people have seen a sky earthquake? Okay, what does a sky quake look like? When the heavens start quaking. Come on, y'all. This is not literal. This is him. This is how he explains what's going on, the destructions. Look, therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts in the day of his fierce anger. So now, the heavens and earth was being destroyed when Babylon was being destroyed. Heaven and earth being destroyed, Babylon being destroyed. What's going on? Verse 17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Verse 19. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. So, this heavens and earth being destroyed is the kingdom of Babylon being destroyed in the day of the Lord. The Lord is destroying Babylon. While he's destroying Babylon, the lights is not giving off their lights. The sun ain't shining. The moon ain't shining. The heavens and earth shaking. Babylon kingdom is being destroyed. So now, let's go back to Matthew 5 so we can actually understand what Matthew 5 is literally saying. For verily I say unto you, 5 and 18, for verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass. What is heaven and earth? Well, we're going to go with and earth was there right there. But I want you to know that this represents a kingdom. Not literal heaven and earth, a kingdom. Till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law until all be fulfilled. So now, you go further. You see, you can't just stop in Matthew 5 and think you understand what the Bible is talking about. You got Matthew 6, Matthew 7, Matthew 10, Matthew 12. So let's go to Matthew 24, which is Christ's prophecy. Don't forget, heaven and earth represents a kingdom. So now, Matthew 24, dealing with Christ's prophecy. Now let's read what happened. And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So Christ is prophesying the temple being destroyed. Verse 3, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? What things? The destruction of the temple. And shall be the sign of thy coming. What coming? This is his second coming. Is it literal? No, it is the day of the Lord. Remember, the day of the Lord in Isaiah was when the came in to destroy Babylon. So this coming is the day of the Lord. And who's coming in to destroy the temple? The Roman army. And of the end of the world or age. And then you scoot over, right? You can keep reading all of this. And you can scoot over and look at what is said in verse 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, the moon shall not give off her lights, the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens be shaken. Didn't we not just read that was going on when Babylon was being destroyed by the Medes? This is not literal language. This is hyperbolic. This is metaphoric language about Jerusalem, that kingdom of the Jews being destroyed. And you can keep reading. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. What was the thing? Jerusalem being destroyed. In fact, if you go to Matthew 23, he actually tells them, when he was talking to the Pharisees and scribes, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, that killest the prophets and stuff. Keep reading, verse 38. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. So he's inside of the temple telling the Pharisees Jerusalem is going to be destroyed. Then he goes outside and he tells the disciples Jerusalem is going to be destroyed. And he used that same heaven and earth shaking and the lights not giving off their lights and the sun and the moon going crazy to explain the devastation that comes when a kingdom is being destroyed. So now you go right back to Matthew 5, dealing with people, dealing with this law, dealing with the law. So what Christ was telling them right here, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. So he was letting them know when Jerusalem was going to be destroyed, they would no longer be under that covenant that required them to do the law. Because the temple would have been destroyed, the priesthood was taken out, so anything dealing with the law was impossible to do. There's no commandment, no teaching that says do the law to the best of your ability. There's some stuff people made up. There's nothing that says if you don't have a Levitical priesthood or if you can't tell who you are, you still can do the law. You can fake it till you make it. And there's no commandment that does that. Christ, the Father, made it impossible to do the law of Moses. But anyway, you see that word right there, till all be fulfilled. One jot or one tittle one jot or one tittle should in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled, right? Till all be fulfilled. So we're going to look for that mark when all was fulfilled. Well, let's scoot on because there's more Bible besides Matthew 5. There's plenty of Gospels. So let's go into another Gospel. Let's go into Luke 24, right? And let's see when Christ touched back on this subject when he resurrected. Luke 24, the same subject, verse 44. And he said unto them, These are the words which I spake unto you while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled. Did we not just read that? Which were written in the law of Moses. You remember he said, I came to fulfill the law and the prophets. Let's see what he's saying. The law of Moses, and guess what? And in the prophets. Wow, the same exact conversation. And in the Psalms concerning me. Then he opened their understanding that they might understand the scriptures, and said unto them, Thus it is written, and thus it behooved Christ to suffer and to rise from the dead the third day, and that repentance and remission of sin should be preached in his name among all nations, beginning at Jerusalem, and ye are witnesses of these. So, the requirement that Christ gave in order for the law to pass away was what? Two requirements. First requirement, till heaven and earth pass. Second requirement, till all be fulfilled. Luke 24, first requirement met. All was fulfilled. So now, what had to happen? Matthew 24, heaven and earth, or the temple had to be destroyed. And for my people to be like, no, heaven and earth ain't there, the temple, no, none of that. It ain't got nothing to do with the kingdoms of the temple. Let's go into the Book of Josephus, everybody. I got the Book of Josephus. He was a Jew. He lived 2,000 years ago. He was a Pharisee. He was a priest. He had the old Hebrew text. He knew exactly what he was talking about. Let's just use some. I'm just going to read some of the things dealing with the tabernacle. And you better believe the temple had the same exact thing. I just want to touch upon the tabernacle, and we can go through this in the temple. But look at some of the things in the tabernacle. I just want to show you this. This was the pattern of the tabernacle. This is page 102. However, this proportion of the measures of the tabernacle, I'm at 123, proved to be an imitation of the system of the world. For the third part thereof, which was with the four pillars, to which the priests were not admitted, as it were, a heaven peculiar to God, but the space of the 20 cubits is as it were sea and land. The temple was a representation of the heaven and earth. And you see they actually have the holy place and stuff. That was dealing with the tabernacle. And if we can actually go on and actually find it in the temple. Let's see if we can find it real fast when the temple came around. Because we know people want to play word games and say, oh, no, that says tabernacle, not temple. Like the tabernacle and temple did not have the same layout. But let's see if I just can find it real fast. See, David gave Solomon. Let's see, when Solomon began to build the temple. Here we go. The building of the temple. Let's see if we can find out what's going on. Let's see, King Moses. Just trying to see if I can find some of these layouts. All right, we got the brazen altar, same sea, burnt altar. All right, let's see. Eagle, lion. Give me 1 sec, y'all. Let's see if I can find the sea. Let's see if I can find the heaven and earth, because I know it's in here. Polished, bronze side door, thick chain. And I'm trying to read fast, y'all. That's the cherubim. That's the brazen sea right there. Sorry, y'all. We got the brazen sea right there. Hemisphere. We got the sea. Pillar. The 12 oceans, the 4 winds. Now the sea contains 3 breaths. And that's not what I'm looking for. I need the heavens and earth. Got the eagle, lions. I'll find it just a second. Bad man. Can't find it right there. Let's see if I can find it in Solomon's temple. Herod's temple. Give me 1 second. Let me find Herod. I know it's Herod's temple. It's the high priest. Sorry, y'all. Give me 1 second to see if I can find it in the table of contents. So I don't have this stuff marked. I wasn't thinking I was going to do this. It's in here somewhere. I just can't remember what chapter it's in. It should be in the beginnings. Chapter. It'd be easier if I can Google it, but I'm on my phone right now. But I want us to all read it together. Oh yeah, man, that Josephus is strong, man. It's strong. This is the true history outside the Bible. This gets into details because a lot of people don't know the past. They don't know what happened 2,000 years ago. That's why they're trying to say everything in the Bible is about today, because they have no idea what happened in the past. They're just as lost. So since they don't know it happened, that means it didn't happen. That's how people mind. If they don't know when it happened, that means it didn't happen. That means it's happening today. But that's not how the Bible works. That's not how history works. All right, we got a description of Jerusalem right here. So we got to have a description of the temple coming up. Here we go. A description of the temple. Found it. All right, so now. Let's see if I can find that heaven and earth now. All right. Let's see. Description of the temple. Hill. First cluster. Now I should highlight some of this stuff. I got some stuff highlighted. Clear mystical interpretation. All right, let me read what I got highlighted real fast. It says right here at page 848, dealing with the description of the temple, right? Let's see. It's got to be. We got the sanctuary. And I can get it. I can read it and find it actually later. But I'm going to read what I got. It was a Babylonian curtain. So that's the Babylonian right there. And we can go into the book of Revelation. You'll see the same thing. Embroidered with blue and fine linen, scarlet and purple. In fact, since we're here, we might as well do it all together. Mystery Babylon, right? What people want to tell you is America or some other ridiculous stuff. Look what Mystery Babylon had, right? Revelation 17, verse 4. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet colored, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, and having in her hand a golden cup full of abomination. You go into the description of the temple. You got the Babylonian curtain embroidered with blue and fine linen and scarlet and purple, and the texture was truly wonderful, nor was the mixture of colors without its mystical interpretation to let you know that the temple was an interpretation of what? But was a kind of image of the universe. The temple represented the world. For the scarlet there seemed to be enigmatically signified fire, by the fine flax the earth, by the blue the air, which would be the heavens, and by the purple the sea. Remember in Revelation, there was no more sea. Why? Because the temple was destroyed. But anyway, let's keep reading. For by the scarlet there seemed to be enigmatically signified fire, by the fine flax the earth, by the blue the air, so that's the heaven and earth, and by the purple the sea. Two of them have their colors, the foundations of the resemblance, but the fine flax and the purple have their own origin, for the foundation, the earth producing the one, and the sea the other. The curtain had it and brought up on it, and it was mystical in the heavens, accepting of the 12 signs representing living creatures. You have the heaven and earth inside the temple. You had all of the same things found in Mystery Babylon, which we telling y'all, Mystery Babylon was Jerusalem. This is the temple. Mystery Babylon was Jerusalem for a century. The whole book of Revelation was about Christ's prophecy of Jerusalem being destroyed. That's all this was. It's about the Roman army coming in to destroy Jerusalem. That's literally what you see, the army of the world, which was the Roman army because they controlled the world, coming in to siege God's people, which was the people in Jerusalem in first century, and the people who got away was those that fled into the mountains, who is actually the 144,000, because they was the ones that listened to Christ and fled into the mountains. This whole thing has nothing to do with today's time. Now, the only thing got to do with today's time is this verse right, this chapter 21 and 22. And the reason why it deals with today's time, because let's just read what happened, okay? Now, the new heaven and the new earth would be opposite of the old heaven and the old earth. So now I'm telling people, now just walk with me. If the old heaven and the old earth was Jerusalem, right? If Mystery Babylon was Jerusalem, let's just see what happened. You have Christ said, in fact, let's just walk through it real fast so I can actually show y'all this is exactly what the Bible is teaching. Matthew 24, right? Matthew 24 and 2. Let me put in. Matthew 24 and 2. You got Christ giving the destruction of Jerusalem, a prophecy about the destruction of Jerusalem. You go down to verse 15. They're fleeing into the mountains from the abomination of desolation. You go into verse 29. You have his second coming, 29 and 30. And you go into verse 34. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, which was the temple, as well as that kingdom, but my word shall not pass away. So you got Christ talking about the destruction of Jerusalem and his second coming. You go into the book of Revelation 19. Is it 19? Let's see here. No, not 19. You go in the book of Revelation 17. Mystery Babylon is introduced. You go into Revelation 18. Mystery Babylon is destroyed, which would be Jerusalem being destroyed. Now, just like in the book of Matthew 24, what happens after the tribulation? Then Christ's second. After Mystery Babylon is destroyed, guess what happened? Revelation 19, Christ's second coming occurs, just like in Matthew 24. It's laid out the same exact way. Jerusalem being destroyed, them fleeing into the mountains, and you see the fleeing into the mountains, what is that? When they fled from that thing, where is that when they fled? It's somewhere in Revelation. But anyway, you got them fleeing, and then you got Christ's second coming. You got Mystery Babylon being destroyed, and then you got Christ's second coming, which is Revelation 19 and verse number 11. This is when I saw heaven open up and behold a white horse. So this is Christ's second coming, just like he said was going to occur during the time of the destruction of Jerusalem. So now what happens? That's the battle of Armageddon. Why is it Battle of Armageddon? What is going on when Jerusalem is being destroyed? Well, you go to Luke 21, read exactly what Christ said in his prophecy. See, the red words is Christ's words, right? Red mean Christ said it. Christ right here, at verse 6 in Luke 21, and for these things you should behold, the day should come where there should not be left one stone upon another. That's Jerusalem being destroyed. Verse number 20, same prophecy about Jerusalem being destroyed. Let's just read what it says. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies. Who armies? The Roman armies. Then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let them not in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. So Christ literally told the disciples all things written was going to be fulfilled during Rome destroying Jerusalem. But people want to tell you it ain't fulfilled yet, and it's still happening today. And if you keep reading, but woe unto them that were with child in those days, so there should be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. What people? The people in Judea. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down till the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. You go to Revelation 20, and this is Christ's second coming, Christ's second coming, 21. Then they shall see the Son of Man coming in the cloud with great power. Then you go to verse 32. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Christ told them all the things was going to happen in their generation. Same thing happened in Revelation. The first 3 verses we read it, they told them these things was going to happen shortly. So now, you got Christ's second coming, and then you got the battle of Armageddon. Didn't he not just tell them that when they see Jerusalem compassed with army, all things written was going to be fulfilled? So guess what's happening? Jerusalem is being compassed with armies right here. And this is the war going on. And I saw an angel standing in the sun. He cried with a loud voice, saying, come gather yourself together for the supper of the great Lord God, that you may eat the flesh of kings, the flesh of captains. So blah, blah, blah. All of this is the Roman army getting ready to circle Jerusalem. And then what happens? Satan is bound, right? Satan is bound. Judgment occurs and all that stuff. Look, what did he tell them? When you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, and they went to the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city. I mean, it's literally what Christ said about Jerusalem being compassed by the Roman army. Literally. Verse number 20. And when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know the desolation thereof is nigh. Revelation 20 and 9. And when they went to the bread of the earth, encompassed the camp of the saints about in the beloved city. This is all about Jerusalem being compassed with armies by the Roman army. And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. What is that symbolizing? This symbolizes those people running, fleeing into the mountain. Those people was protected. All this is saying is the Father protected some of the people. The people that got protected are the ones that fled into the mountains. Everybody else got destroyed. You see, this is Judgment Day. I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. The books were open and another book was open. This is Judgment Day. All those wicked people that didn't listen to Christ, they stayed inside of Jerusalem and was destroyed. This is symbolic for them being destroyed. This is all this is. This is a vision, okay? This is not literal. This is a vision. That's why you got to go to Christ's prophecy to understand Revelation. Christ's prophecy decodes Revelation, not what people are doing today about it. But anyway, that's not what I'm trying to get at. So now, after Christ came, what did it say he do? He gathered all the saints together, and they went and sat down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? So now, after Judgment Day, what happens? And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, For the first heaven and the first earth was passed away. What happened to the first heaven and the first earth? Well, if you read it, back in 18, Mystery Babylon was destroyed. Jerusalem was that first heaven and first earth. It passed away. Jerusalem was just destroyed. And now the saints can be with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which is symbolic to the new covenant. And it literally is going to go through it right here. I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven, let me focus. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. Where did we read the sea was at? Inside the temple. There was no more temple. Why? Because it just got destroyed with Jerusalem. Now, and it literally explains to you, and I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down. So where was Old Jerusalem? If New Jerusalem was coming down, where was Old Jerusalem? Old Jerusalem was just destroyed. Old Jerusalem was the first heaven and the first earth. New Jerusalem was the new heaven and new earth. Come on, guys. The Bible literally explains it. As a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. This is symbolic for them sitting with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is a new covenant promise. I will be their people. They will be my people, and I will be their God. This is the literal new covenant promise. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. Why? Because the former things are passed away. What was passed away? The old heaven and the old earth. Old Jerusalem was passed away. All former things that was causing death. In fact, let me try to clear this up again. That was causing tears and death and pain because all of the curses that was in that old covenant. That's what was causing it. The law of Moses was causing this death, this pain, the crisis. The crying. I'm trying to get more focused, y'all. Sorry. I don't know why my phone won't focus now. There we go. And look what it says. And he sat upon the throne and said, Behold, I make all things new. What was new? New heaven, new Jerusalem, new covenant, new body, new way to worship him. I make all things new. And he said unto me, Write, for the words are true and faithful. And he said unto me, It is done. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give him that is the thirst of the fountain of water of life freely. The same thing Christ said. Christ said, if you put on him and you are thirst, he will give you that water free. And let's keep reading. And he that overcomer shall inherit all things. And I will be his God, and he shall be my son. Once again, the new covenant promise. This is where we at right now in the new covenant. And let's read verse 10. And he carried me away in spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me the great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God. That great city, that high mountain, New Jerusalem, holy Jerusalem, new covenant. And it goes down all this, and I want to show you where it says, let's end it to prove that the law of Moses was done. When you go down to verse 22, he showed me a pure river, the water of life, which is dealing with the Holy Spirit. Verse 3. And there shall be no more curse. The curse was gone. No more law of Moses, the thing dealing with Moses, which brought on the curses. No more curse. But the throne, what was left? But the throne of God and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him. Same thing that you read in Revelation 5, dealing with serving. Anyway, So I have talked and talked and talked. I have ran everybody off who had a disagreement with me because, once again, they want the Bible, right? Excuse me. They want the Bible to be all about our days and time. They don't understand the liberty on why it is great that we did not live during the law of Moses or the Mosaic covenant. 100% great, because we don't have to worry about none of those curses. Now, what Christ said was, love your neighbor like yourself. Love the Father above all. Okay? So for my people that's stuck in the transatlantic slave trade that blames the Bible, blames the Father, blames the curses of Deuteronomy 28 on the transatlantic slave trade. No. What that is people being wicked. Okay? If they had love for their brothers like they love themselves, if they love the Father above all, if they believed in love, the transatlantic slave trade would have never happened. If they believed on Christ, and really believed on his doctrine of peace, prosperity, of joy, then you would not have these police out here killing people for no reason. You would not have all of the poverty. You would not have the people out here tricking each other and getting over and all of this thing that's wicked. You would not have all of this unrighteous stuff if people believed and actually followed the gospel. This is why the Gospels was left. It was a roadmap to show people how to please the Father outside of the law of Moses. The law of Moses made nobody righteous. All it did was bring on more curses, and it puffed people up. Just like people now, they're puffed up. They're trying to tell you that white people are Edomites and God hate Edom. What? Okay, that's crazy. And then you never seen Christ talking about Rome. You never seen Christ talking about the Babylonians. You never see him talking about none of these nationality of people. But now today people say, well, they're not Israel, so let's talk about them. And you, me, none of us can prove that we are Israelites. The only thing we can do is use history to draw a great conclusion that we might be Israelite because of how history laid it out. History got it laid out on how we could, in fact, be Israel. 100%. But that is not a point to get to the kingdom of heaven or the new covenant. That's not a talking point. That's not what the Father made sure to get rid of nationality. That's why we can't prove who we are, because the Father did everything he needed to do in order to prove, in order to make it, that the only way we can reach him is through Christ. I don't care. It don't matter what you eat. It don't matter what day you worship on. If you're not doing what Christ told you to do, you're not part of the kingdom. Point blank, period. You can do all 600, 700 things in the law of Moses. If you don't have charity, if you're not loving your brothers, if you're not doing the things that Christ said, the things the disciples taught, the thing Paul kept bringing out, then you're not in the kingdom, no matter what you want to be. Christ told the Pharisees and back then, and the Pharisees and scribes back then, that the kingdom was going to be taken from them, and given to people that produce great fruit. What more do you need to know? He literally laid it out. He laid out when the end was going to come. He laid when all of the old covenant prophecies and prophets and all of that was going to be fulfilled and sealed up. Christ gave all of it. He gave the whole entire roadmap. All you got to do is believe it. So while you're stuck in the old covenant, okay, while you're stuck trying to physically do something to please the Father, he's not looking at you. He's the Father. He doesn't care. If you're not doing what he told you to do, he don't care. So that's on you if you want to believe what you want to believe. But my statement stands, and I'm going to end it with this. I said, we are not living in the last days, and the Father doesn't care about the day you worship him or what you are eating. Let's read the Bible one chapter at a time. I stand by that statement. Thank you all for listening. No matter what, no matter how you want the Bible still have prophecy to be fulfilled today, no matter how much you done wrapped it around your heart and you try to cipher the Bible so we still have some prophecy left, it ain't going to work. It's not going to happen, okay? It ain't happening, Captain. Get inside of Christ. Get inside the love. Get inside of the honor and respect for your brothers and sisters. And then you can actually understand the kingdom of heaven. The reason why you don't understand the kingdom of heaven is because you haven't allowed the Spirit in. You haven't allowed Christ to work with you because you have so much hatred. And the Spirit is not going to do well with no hatred. I'm sorry. So while you out there fringe checking, trying to see who got fringes on, trying to see what people got, while you checking every ingredients inside of hair products and inside of tater chip bags, that's on you being silly. That's not going to bring you to Father. That's not going to bring you to Christ. All things have been fulfilled. I am done. Thank you all for listening. I like to say shalom. If you have any questions, just let me know. Hit me up. It's a gang of us out here that actually love the Bible and stand for what the Bible says. All right. Shalom. Thank you all for listening.